Welcome everyone to All Women Driven, the podcast about how women got to where they are in automotive. I am your host, Sarah Davis. Today we have Melissa Clark with us. What do you do? I know you're an off-roader. I know you're with Ford.
Yep, I drive for Ford. I'm part of Ford Performance, and I drive specifically the Bronco Sport and the Rebelle Rally. But I also work 20 hours a week writing for the Bronco Nation. It's online. They also do events. A lot of people, if they're familiar with the Bronco world, know a little bit about Bronco Nation. The other thing I do in my other downtime is I'm a guide at the Moab Bronco Off Rodeo. So I teach people, if people are watching not familiar with it, if you buy a Bronco or a Bronco Sport, you get a token basically that will allow you to visit one of, I think, 5 Bronco Off Rodeos we have now. You're allowed to visit for the day, and we at the Off Rodeos teach you how to drive your Bronco or Bronco Sport in an off-road situation, plus what all the buttons and goat modes and all that fun stuff is. So that's basically what I do. We do a bunch of little projects here and there. We've done some education and things, off-roading education, but I call this my semi-retirement job. I started right into nursing. I got my when I wasn't even quite 21 yet. I went straight from high school into nursing. And so I tell people I'm doing role reversal. A lot of people spend the first few years of adulthood figuring out what they want to do. So they might go be a ski bum, or they might go do some different things. I didn't. I went right into the profession of nursing. And now that I'm in my mid-50s, I decided to take the opportunity. Brian's pretty settled in life too. So we looked at all of our options and realized, hey, we can now allow me to be a 50-something-year-old ski bum. So I do a lot of different part-time jobs and everything that I'm passionate about and have fun.
Yeah. Now, I met you at Bronco Supercell.
Yep.
And you were our guide. And I have to say, your teaching was amazing. When I went to off-road, then I was able to be like, yep, I got that. They were just like, you've done this before.
You were our tail gunner and you did a great job.
Yes, that was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
I need to get back out. Now you do Rebelle Rally with Ford.
Rebelle Rally with Ford. Yeah, I drive for Ford Performance. I've actually done all the Rebelle rallies. So this was the 9th edition. They call them editions. So it's the 9th year. Coming into this will be obviously then the decade's worth of it. So I'm planning on doing it this year. So 10 years worth of Rebelle Rally. So when I first started doing the rally, I was a privateer. I think there may have been a few kind of corporate or motorsport sponsored teams, but most of us just kind of came in as privateers. And I still think that we have probably still the majority of the participants are what we call privateers. They might have small sponsors here or there, but they mostly raise their own funds for that. We do have Ford. I think you were talking about Toyota. Jeep. We've had Rivian in the past. We've had a lot of the major players. Nissan's been part of it. I'm sure Honda has been part of it. All the major players have had at times have rotated through and had sponsorship. Now Ford decided to come into the game in 2020. They put in Bronco Sports, and I wasn't part of that team then. It was employees that worked at Ford, and then Shelby Hall drove one of the Bronco Sports, and her navigator was but in 2021, when the big Broncos, I shouldn't call them that, but when the regular Broncos came out, she shifted into a regular Bronco role, and I was approached to help fund and field the Bronco Sport seat as the driver. So I brought in a new navigator at that time, and we competed in 2021. That was my first year. There's 2 classes. There's a 4-wheel drive class, and there's what we call an X-Cross class. And those are more the all-wheel drive. I call it the Subaru style class. We competed in that class. That was my first time doing that, and we won. And Ford kept sponsoring. So I like the X-Cross class. It's if anybody's done the
Yeah.
Rebelle Rally or wants to do the Rebelle Rally, if you want to do a really hard Rebelle Rally, drive the same route. At least 80% of the time, the 4-wheel drives are on. But you're doing it in basically an all-wheel drive vehicle, and
Okay. Right.
that'll get you to pay attention to what you're doing. Yeah.
Yeah. So what were you driving the first few years?
I started in Jeeps, and that's where I started my off-roading. I mean, I lived in Indiana for a long time. So when I went to Indiana University, so I spent the first 30-something years of my life was in Indiana. And that's where I started liking Jeeps. I got my first Jeep when I was there. And I had this goal in my mind that I wanted to be able to go to these national parks or be able to, basically hiking was the goal. And I wanted to have a vehicle that could get me to these hiking trails. I also had this big dream. It's funny, I was thinking about this earlier. I had this big dream that I wanted to go in Death Valley to a place called the Racetrack. It's where this dry lake bed where the rocks move across the lake bed. I don't know if but they said the only way you could get there is with a 4-wheel drive vehicle. So I was like, well, I got to get a 4-wheel drive so I can drive out there and see that. And it started an obsession. My first Jeep, I never really did much with it. We had it in Indiana, got rid of it. I've done a lot of car trading in my life, and about a year and a half later, decided I did want a Jeep again. So I got another Jeep.
Okay.
And that's the one that we started actually modifying because I had a previous marriage. We moved out west from Indiana. I worked at a hospital in Tucson, Arizona, and that's where we started modifying the vehicle. Shortly after that, I got invited to to take a job in a marketing group with a medical device company, and that was in Draper, Utah. That got me very close to Moab, the Mecca. We were about 3 hours drive. So it was weekends now we could get to Moab. So we started getting involved with the Red Rock Four Wheelers Jeep Club, Moab Friends for Wheeling Jeep Club, and started learning more about our vehicle. And then I started to get into what Jeep actually stands for, which a lot of people don't know. It stands for just empty every pocket, because you'll spend all the money on your Jeep if you're not careful.
Yeah. I feel like that's for the Broncos as well. You're going to just spend all your money modifying it. I feel like Tim's adding a new modification every chance he gets.
Yeah, it's an obsession, and you can spend a lot of money. It's funny that they tell you, you can't buy love, but I'll tell you, with being an off-road as a hobbyist, primarily as a hobbyist, and that is what people do. They spend their money. They think the price tag of getting their vehicle is high, and then they realize that, hey, look at all these cool things we can do. And then, you start driving it, and then you break it, and then you need a bed or whatever. Yeah. Pretty soon it's you're just constantly looking at what can you do next. And actually, we're still doing that now. We have a 23 Bronco 2-door Badlands, and we were just out there in the garage. We changed off the front bumper. We're installing inside. We're installing a rack that's going to hold our mini Starlink. We finally we're going into the next millennia here, even though it's a little technologically challenging for us. But we got the mini Starlink. And what's cool about this one is that you can put it inside. It doesn't have to be mounted on top of the roof. So we're building a rack.
That's awesome.
Inside the Bronco, because we have the hard top. We're planning on going to Baja again this year. So and seeing the Hammers here coming up. So having the mini Starlink will be a fun thing.
Yeah. So you've done off-roading. Was there automotive history in your background and family or anything? Just you wanted to start hiking, so you got off-road capable vehicles to get there?
Yeah, it's interesting that I never had any real automotive. In fact, one of the funny stories I tell about my father, who's passed away now, but when I was a girl, I remember that he accidentally, instead of motor oil, he put maple syrup in his Oldsmobile. That's the level of motorsports. Yes, and that ruins an engine. Yeah.
Yep.
It smelled good, but it had to do a whole engine engine replacement. My brother used to tinker around on a Mustang, cool one, I don't know, probably like a 1970, 71 Mustang. He had that. But other than that, nothing much going on in Indiana with motorsports. Everything I
Okay.
loved about motorsports happened as a hobbyist because I felt as a woman starting into off-roading that I didn't want to be a damsel in distress all the time. If I had a problem, I didn't want to wring my hands and wait for a man to come tell me, what's wrong or how to. So every time something happened, and I was helpless, 100% helpless. I remember the first time I saw a drive shaft break on a trail, and I had no idea what it was. It wasn't my vehicle, but I watched somebody else's, and I said, I don't know what that is. I don't know why that happened. And so I found myself like getting right underneath there. And of course, in this kind of hobby, people are for the most part friendly. You do find the good old boys club where they think, and there's less of that now. There used to be a lot more of that. Many times I was the only woman driving on the trail. There was a few that would ride along, but not driving. So I would get underneath and say, what is this? And, how do you fix it? And, what makes it better? And so I constantly would do that. And once we had the opportunity to be that close to Moab, we actually invested in a condo in Moab. So we'd go down virtually every weekend to spend a week there during Easter Jeep Safari. We'd be out on the trails. And I wanted to learn how to lead trails. I wanted to be able to learn how to read obstacles. So that's kind of where I got into this. I'm a rock crawler. But I wanted to come forward also, and I always tried to remember that I was that person that knew nothing. I was the person who didn't know anything about driving off-road. I didn't know how to put my vehicle really in a four-wheel drive. I didn't know why people aired down. So I tried to say that no matter where I got in my life, I would always remember somebody is just coming into this. And if there's something I can help them learn or do, and that's why if you enjoyed my guiding, that's why I try to stay into that realm that everybody's learning and we just need to be calm and have a good time. And the vehicles are capable, just trust the vehicle. And I mean, the idea of off-roading as a hobbyist, obviously, is to have a blast and to have a good time and to love it and to become addicted to it. And I think some of the best ways to do that is to empower people, especially women, empower them to drive and empower them to get that confidence that their vehicle can do it. They just need to learn a few skills.
Yeah. I agree with that. I think that's something that everyone has to remember in their profession is that you are the expert. Other people are coming to you for your expertise and they know nothing. So pretend that you know nothing as well. And then teach them what you know.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. And I just try to make it friendly and fun because it doesn't matter. I mean, there are a lot of people in the off-roading world who kind of grew up in it, right? They were driving, they were driving at 4 and 5 and sitting on somebody's lap. And I mean, that's what Brian is.
Yeah.
Brian was born to it in the motorcycle world and just so Brian's my husband. I'm not trying to bring men into it, but he's so, I know you know that, Sarah, but I didn't figure I can do.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's been a super partner with me to, somebody to do a lot of fun stuff with and somebody who just, I mean, we have that 1966 Bronco. We certainly need to get that sucker fixed up and get it back roadworthy. But that was his grandmother's. So he's been in it since he was born pretty much.
Yeah. See, I've been in automotive my entire life, but I've been in sales, not really driving, not really that sort of thing, but I know sales. But getting into the off-roading, it's a wonderful community of women. I feel like there's a huge community of women now that I'm entering into this. I've made friends on Instagram with people that I've met, doing the sticker swaps and whatnot. And it's such a good community. And even on the trails, I felt like we had almost the same amount of women as men when I was in Colorado.
Yeah.
It was a lot of fun.
Well, I think a lot of women, believe it or not, and you probably know better with sales, but I think a lot of Bronco sports, especially, but a lot of Bronco owners are women. And I've talked to a lot of women my age even who say, you know what, is this something new I want to try and it just looks like fun. And it's great to have supportive women. And I think, Bronco Off Rodeo, as well as Bronco Nation, we've done a lot of things to try to focus on women. I know I get two sides of like, well, why would you separate yourself as women? I mean, the Rebel is a women's only event. Why would you separate yourself? Because that's still keeping you from being fully integrated into the off-road world. And my response to that is there's a lot of women who feel very intimidated sometimes in the company of men, especially if they feel, and it might not even be the men that are doing it, it's just they feel that. And I've noticed that when we do like a ladies' day at the Bronco Off Rodeo, one, we laugh a whole lot more. Nobody takes anything seriously. They all do a fantastic job. But the comfort level is there. You see them asking, what they think is ridiculous questions. They're fine, but the comfort is there, and it's nice to be out on the trails. I think we still have to have kind of a safe place, at least for a few more years until everybody gets fully equal.
I will say men tend to have a big personality about them, and they tend to be intimidating. So sometimes women on women learning and interaction is a lot better than having a male who's big and loud and boisterous coming towards you. It's a bit different.
Yeah.
So, those might be big teddy bear men, but it can still be intimidating.
And I've been so blessed because, like, what I'm telling you is everybody who taught me, I have like two powerful off-road women that I used to wheel with, but a lot of the mechanical side are all from men. And the club that we were in Moab, the guys were, I remember a time on the trail, I had broken my axle, and the guys got out the lawn chairs and they watched me change the axle, change out on the trail and do all the work. And they'd call out a little advice here or there if I got stuck, you need this spindle and nut.
Yeah.
But they didn't intervene at all, and they would have if I'd have wanted them to. But I wanted to show everybody I could do it myself, and they knew it was going to take longer. And it was, but hey, we got lawn chairs. They ate lunch. I changed the axle, and it's a skill that I'm thrilled they didn't intervene. They let me do it. And the same way with leading trails. They said the only way you can really understand how to lead trails is you just got to lead trails. So I would have a very powerful off-roader be like vehicle number 2 there to like help me in case I was going to die or something ridiculous.
Yeah.
But let me do it. And they would let me spot them, and they would tell me, you're spotting wrong. I'm not going to go the way you go. And here's why. Here's how, or can I show you one time how to spot a vehicle and then you do the rest? There was just a lot of mentorship that I really appreciated from men. But I will tell you that getting there sometimes, I think getting to that comfort level is hard for women when they first are getting into it, because it can be, especially if you don't have that knowledge. Now I know a lot of guys don't have that knowledge either, but
but women always know that.
Well, I'll tell you the other thing. I would much rather teach a woman to off-road than to teach a guy. When I'm spotting, here's what I know. Women listen, and then they just go step by step through what they need to do. They don't bring in any other emotions. They don't bring it. Yeah. They might be afraid, but they're going to look at you and say, okay, here's what you need to do. And they're going to nod their head, and then they're going to do it. I've had guys. Now, some of the guys are just as great too, but I've also had guys who swear to me that they did exactly what I said. And the only way I could show them that they didn't do what I said was that somebody videoed it, and I could show them back the video and say, see how I'm telling you to go this way and you're turning it the opposite way. The wheel is turning the opposite. And they're like, yeah, I didn't even know I was doing that. So, yeah, so it's, there's some ego and not always. And I'll tell you, it's been a huge change since I started off-roading. I probably started pretty heavily off-roading about 2004, 2005. So I'm about 20 years into what I would call kind of hardcore, regular off-roading, where I'm doing lots and lots of trails. And I've seen such a difference in 20 years. And I'll tell you, in the Bronco world compared to the Jeep world, I see, and maybe it's just because I still do Easter Jeep Safari. I still lead trails for Jeep
Okay.
Safari, so I still interact with Jeepers, and
Yeah.
but I think a lot of people when they buy the Broncos, they also kind of came in newer. They're more open,
Mm-hmm.
right? They're not like hardcore fixed that it has to be a Jeep and that's the only thing I can do.
Yeah.
So I think people that select Broncos are a little more open-minded that something can be different. And I never
Yeah.
had anything other than, I can't even think of a time where I did not, when I'm doing Bronco World, where I did not have like respect from guys and girls that I'm the guide and that they trust me
Yeah.
to help them out. So it's been great. I loved it. I
Yeah.
love the direction it's going.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's I love how seeing the more women entering the automotive world. We have women in our shop. We have women in our, um, our sales team and whatnot. It's becoming less male dominated and more equal.
Mm-hmm.
There's still further to go, but we're getting there. But when we go off roading, I feel like what you were saying with the Bronco owners, they either came in from the old generations, so they're coming in and they know have experience with the Broncos, or they're coming in, they haven't ever off roaded. This is their first vehicle,
Mm-hmm.
or they're coming over from Jeep. So,
Yeah.
Seeing the coming together of the Bronco community is wonderful. I
Mm-hmm.
have stickers upon stickers at my desk from all these people sending to me and to each other, um, letters, gifts, stickers, patches,
Pretty,
magnets. It's just,
it's pretty great. Yeah, we had a group, a lot of them came out from Michigan last year, but came
mm-hmm.
from some different places, Arizona and some different spots. But I thought the cool thing was they came out to do this trip in Moab, and a lot of them had never even met each other face to face. They'd done things
Yeah.
through either Bronco Nation forums or, how they ended up meeting, and they knew each other very well virtually,
Mm-hmm.
but they'd never face to face met or off-roaded together. But it's really cool. I think well, I know they're going to do it again. They're coming out, I think, the first week of April, a
It was
group.
awesome.
Yeah. So that's neat. They've created
Yeah.
this little group, and it's fun because these are all like you guys. We've met all of these people through the Bronco world, and I've
Mm-hmm.
even met them more in a professional capacity, right? Usually I'm a guide or I'm sort of working. I'm not just, chumming along, but I've made some really good friends. And there's a lot of people that I would just as much enjoy off-roading with or going out to dinner with, or, we did that in
Mm-hmm.
Las Vegas. We
Yep.
went out and had a dinner together. And it's really neat that that something that you have as a hobby like that can turn into, all of this rich type of relationships that you get
Mm-hmm.
with a lot of people. And it's been fun. I've had so much fun
Yeah.
since I moved Bronco. And I do have to kind of give that nod back to the Rebelle Rally as being my gateway into it through the Bronco Sport and through Ford asking me to drive, because that kind of opened up
Mm-hmm.
opportunities for the off rodeo and Bronco Nation, all these things that I've gotten into that,
Yeah.
help pay a few bills, but are mostly just an absolute blast and having a good time.
Yeah. Now with your Broncos Sport, you've done some incredible things with that in Rebelle
Yeah,
and out of Rebelle and whatnot. I have people that go, I'm like, oh, you're buying a Broncos Sport. Are you ready to off road? And they're like, this is for in town only. And I'm like, it's capable. And they're like, no, it's in town only. This won't go off road. I'm like, I'm telling you right now, you need to, since you're buying this, you need to go to Off Rodeo and see how capable these are.
yeah.
Also, check out Rebelle Rally and look up the Bronco Sport footage there. You'd be amazed by what these can do.
Yeah, I'm stunned by. I still get stunned. I had the 25 Sasquatch this year in the
Yeah.
Bad Sasquatch in the rally, and we had a little bit of a mechanical issue, but the sand. I always thought the Bronco Sport excels in sand, but boy, this year in that Sasquatch, we just went everywhere. I couldn't believe the size of some of the sand bowls that we were in a Bronco Sport. I mean, and we kind of tagged along with the Subaru that day. Gary Lando and Mountain Subi team. We went together and we were in these giant bowls kind of supporting each other. And like we would see people like in forerunners and stuff like on the fringes, like afraid to come in where we were going. It's like, well, it's just keep on going.
Yeah.
And yeah, I was stunned. That's what made me love the Bronco sport, actually, is that first year that they asked me to drive. I'd come from the Jeep world and I underestimated it, as most people probably do. I thought, well, Ford's footing the bill, so I'm just going to go have
why not go for it?
best rally I can and see what happens. And I put that car in some places and I thought, well, here goes nothing. And it did it. I mean, we had wheel lifts. We had places that we'd gone down that after us, people were stacking rocks because they watched the size of our wheel lift and it scared them. But we made it, we didn't break. And we made it through the rally. And that made me fall in love with the Bronco sport. So I actually got more into that. It was quite a while before I actually was in the regular Bronco. I did a lot of off-roading in the sport, but I've come from, other than like two wheels, I mean, from a hobby perspective, I haven't really done the ATVs and the motorcycles, but I have we have a buggy, and I built my Jeep up to make it buggy-ish. I mean, we've been on 42-inch tires. It's 40s on it right now, but we take it in a lot of rock crawling. I love off camber and ledges and all that kind of stuff. So we do, I lead for Jeep Safari. I lead the level 9 trail that they offer. They only Eastern Safari, the formal event, only offers one level 9 trail. It's called Pritchett Canyon. And since they've had Pritchett Canyon on the Easter Jeep Safari list, I'm the only woman who's ever led it. There's been several women who've been gunners, but I'm still the only one who's outright led that for Jeep Safari. And and when I first did it, people were so skeptical, but now people will tell me, I was watching for your trail because it's just so, which is, I'm always very honored when people say that, but they say I have a pretty calm demeanor when I'm on the trail, and that helps give them, there's no panicking, nobody's going to die. And although we've certainly had lots of rollovers, I've seen so many vehicles roll. I've seen a few injuries in my life, but very rare. And usually it's something silly. I think the worst one I saw was somebody, they put their hand outside the vehicle and they got their hand smashed. And another time and the nursing in me gets to come out, right? Another time I splinted a guy's leg because he was taking pictures and he fell off of a ledge and broke his leg. But surprisingly, in such a sport, especially when we get into that kind of hardcore rock crawling, it's incredible how rare it is for anybody to actually get hurt.
Well, you're inside a vehicle, so unless
that's where you should stay in that roll cage. Keep everything inside the vehicle while it's in motion, like they tell you at the amusement parks, right? Keep your hands inside the vehicle.
My sister was tentative about having my nephew go with my parents to off-road, and she's like, no. We're like, it's okay. Like, we don't have anything here in Kansas that would be extremely dangerous for them to be out on the trail in. It's okay. I've seen kids off-roading. I've seen parents take their kids off-roading in car seats. As long as the kids stay in the car seat, they should be safe. So it's as long as you're in that vehicle, and you aren't doing anything like falling off a ledge.
You're taking these same babies at 70 miles an hour in a car on the highway with semis around you. So I think it's one of the things where you're weighing out, you're putting too much thought into a risk of something that's actually you're going 2 or 3 miles an hour. As long as somebody's not driving off a cliff, right?
We have a pass from here. You go to McPherson, and then you're an hour and a half on a 2-lane highway with mostly semi-traffic. There are steep drop-offs. There's barely any shoulders during that route. And I was driving that at 60 for an hour and a half, twice a weekend. And those are steeper drop-offs than anything that we've taken off-roading. So it's, like you said, it's you're thinking too hard about it.
Yeah. Well, I think too, if you've never seen it, right? So people a lot of times
Yes.
project in their mind what it's going to be. And once, if you haven't done it, come out and try it. And that's one of the things I tell women. I mean, I'm hoping that if, that one, congratulations on you doing this, as this women's podcast live stream.
Thank
That's
you.
cool. I'm hoping that women will look at this and say, you know what, these are just regular other women. I mean, I don't, like I said, I didn't come from a motorsport background. I don't have an exceptional skill. I just wanted to learn, and it's something I wanted to do and do well. But come into a hobby, I used to say I said it about Jeeps, but I can say it about Broncos too. It's like their destiny is to go off road. And if you buy them and all you ever do with them is drive them on the pavement to the grocery store and the mall, you've not allowed them to fulfill their destiny. They got off-road DNA in them, and they need to run free on the trails a little bit. And so it's, and I just wrote an article and put it on the Bronco Nation, and it's for ways to get into off-roading, so that in 2025 that you make a New Year's resolution. And maybe that's one that people think about, is make a resolution for something you're going to do. And if there's an event near you, that's the best way to get into off-roading. Go to an event where there's guides and there's somebody to support, where there's other people who've done it a lot. And then it's not nearly as scary as like, let's just drive down this road and see what happens. That can be really scary. But women can do anything off-road. I used to tell I tell people that I could actually do it better because my foot was smaller than a big old man's foot trying to mash on the clutch. And I drove a manual off-road for forever. And, being able to, I'd climb something, they'd say, you did that with a stick shift? And I'm like, yeah, because that's one of the things I tried to learn. But, I said I had a smaller foot, so I was more nimble off-road because I didn't have that big old man foot plowing around. But women can do anything. And I think that's why having something like the Rebelle Rally, now that's a big event. I mean, if you've looked, I know you have, it's a big commitment, both in time, resources, financial, but there's a bunch of things that are women only. Look for if you're from the Bronco world, look for the off-rodeo days. Maybe you've got a Raptor and you want to go to the Raptor Assault. I mean, these are all things that you can do, that you get a free one. You just got to get yourself there. And you're going to be learning from the best on how to do things. Join a club. There's tons of clubs around. And actually Bronco Nation just started a new clubs page. There's not too many clubs there now, but more and more are going to get added. It's a way for you to reach out and find people. And even somebody like
Facebook
Meraki,
clubs.
Yeah, absolutely. Facebook clubs.
Yeah.
That's how I found a lot of the clubs. I'm a member of a whole bunch of clubs, and I don't even live here. I don't even live geographically near those clubs, but we've done a lot of fun things with them. So it's if you want to do it, you go do it. It's you need to
Bronco
you need to take
Supercell.
your children.
Bronco Supercell is a wonderful place to do that. Tennessee has like thousands show up, don't they?
I know, yeah. And actually, that's we've never had a chance to go. It's usually too close.
Oh my!
I've not been to that one. It's far for us. We're out here we're out here in the mecca of off-roading in the Colorado and Utah areas. But yeah, it's kind of far, and it's usually pretty close to Jeep Safari. We have it again.
And they do
have it out there. It's on our calendar. We're just going to have to see if it plays out or not.
I know that they do women's only drives, destination drives. Tim likes the Tennessee for the community. He really likes the interaction there, but then he likes Supercell in Colorado for the off-roading.
Yeah, the off-roading. I'll tell you, I love Easter Jeep Safari, but if you want something that knocks your socks off, as far as scenery and just incredible trails, those trails out there by Buena Vista and up above Taylor Park Reservoir and above even Ouray and Silverton areas in Colorado. Now you've got to get those late in the summer, but those are it's just incredible.
Yeah.
You just can't stop looking at the scenery, and you see the wildlife. This year we had moose. We just, I mean, Tin Cup is a fun trail.
Yeah.
There's just some really neat things out there that they're not overly hard. But boy,
And then if you have a trail guide like Brian, you get to see all the history too.
Oh, well, Brian loves to tell a story. You know, he's always good
Yeah.
for a tall tale, or, you know, how did Tin Cup get its name? Is a guy with a tin cup full of silver or gold dust or something that came down, and that's how it ended up getting the name. But yeah, that's all
Yeah.
mining history. It's pretty incredible to
Mhm.
see how they constructed these roads back then to get up into the mountains. But yeah, trails is my game. I mean, where I am in the automotive world, you said you come from, you know, you're from a sales perspective and all of that. I'm all about trails, so I'm always going to fall back to the passion of off-roading and taking people and guiding people off-road. That's my niche, and that's my favorite thing to do.
Yeah. Yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you for joining us and sharing your journey to where you are today, and helping us drive women forward in automotive.
Yeah, and so if anybody does want to reach out to me on Instagram, I'm Bronco Sport for the win, and I'm for Bronco Sport for the win. And you can message me. I get people all the time that say they're afraid to reach out. They don't want to bother me and things like that. This is my thing. It's no different than anybody else that loves off-roading. If you want to get into it as a woman and you see this and you want to say, how do I start, or tell me about an event, or let me learn more about the Rebelle Rally, any of those things, just reach out to me, follow me on Instagram, and you know, become part of this community and be another one of the, you know, one of our larger group of friends around the country that we do fun things with, and join up with us. It's awesome.
Yeah, awesome. Well, thank you. Thanks,
Sarah.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us for our very first episode. Had a couple little trip ups in there, but we made it through, and we will continue to go forward and figure out as we go. We're not perfect. We are humans. So thank you for joining me on this journey as I progress forward. And if you would like all of Melissa's information, it is down below. So go check that out for her information and her links where you can find her. So have a wonderful day, and join us next time as we drive women's stories forward. Bye.